Have you ever heard of the case that shocked the world and became known as the trial of the century? Today we are going to delve into the story of O.J. Simpson, former American football player and television star, who became the center of one of the most controversial and highly publicized criminal cases in United States history. Prepare to learn the dark details, the twists and turns, and the hidden truths behind this crime that brought a nation to a halt. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any shocking stories like this one. On the fateful night of June 12, 1994, the tranquility of the Brentwood neighborhood in Los Angeles was shattered by a brutal crime that would shock the world. Nicole Brown Simpson, O.J. Simpson's ex-wife, and her friend Ronald Goldman were found dead in violent circumstances. Nicole, a 35-year-old woman, had maintained a troubled and abusive relationship with O.J. for years. That night, she was the victim of multiple stab wounds, which caused deep and fatal injuries. Ronald Goldman, a 25-year-old waiter, was at the house to return an item forgotten by O.J.'s ex-wife, and he also suffered a violent death with clear signs of struggle and stab wounds. The crime scene was disturbing. Blood splattered on the floor, signs of a desperate struggle, and marks indicating extreme violence. The brutality of the murder put the police and the press on high alert. This crime was not just a case of domestic violence or a robbery gone wrong. It was the starting point of one of the most highly publicized and controversial trials in history, which would involve one of America's most famous athletes, O.J. Simpson. The victims, Nicole and Ronald, became symbols of the tragedy that marked not only their families but an entire nation that followed every detail through the news. Immediately after the discovery of the bodies of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, the Los Angeles police initiated an intense and rapid investigation, aware of the repercussion this crime would have. Investigators began collecting evidence, interviewing witnesses, and piecing together what had happened that night. From the beginning, O.J. Simpson was considered the prime suspect. There were strong motives: the couple's troubled history, previous episodes of domestic violence reported by Nicole, and their recent separation. The police team found Nicole's, Ronald's, and O.J.'s blood at the crime scene, as well as O.J.'s blood in his car and in his house. This series of evidence seemed to point directly to him. However, the investigation took a dramatic turn on June 17, 1994, when police attempted to arrest O.J. Simpson at his home. Instead of surrendering immediately, O.J. got into the passenger seat of a white Ford Bronco, driven by his friend Al Cowlings, and began a low-speed pursuit on Los Angeles freeways. For over an hour, millions of Americans watched the chase live on television, which brought the entire country to a standstill. The image of O.J., visibly distraught in that escape that looked more like a movie, went down in history. In the end, the chase ended with O.J.'s peaceful surrender, and he was arrested and taken into custody. The arrest did not end the mystery. On the contrary, it intensified the media spectacle. The press was ecstatic, turning the legal process into a true show, with heated debates about race, fame, and justice. This phase marked the beginning of what would become known as the trial of the century. The trial of O.J. Simpson began in January 1995 and quickly became a global phenomenon. Broadcast live on television, the proceedings aroused enormous public interest and divided opinions across the country. What made this trial so special was not only the notoriety of the accused, but the entire complexity of the case, which involved racial, social, legal, and media issues. O.J. Simpson hired one of the most expensive and famous defense teams in history, the Dream Team. Composed of renowned lawyers such as Johnny Cochran, Robert Shapiro, and F. Lee Bailey, the group used every possible strategy to contest the evidence presented by the prosecution. The defense argued that the Los Angeles police, especially Detective Mark Furman, had a history of racism and that the evidence against Simpson could have been planted or contaminated. They alleged that the system was trying to unfairly incriminate a famous black man at a time when racial tensions were high in the city. The trial lasted about 9 months and featured dramatic testimonies, meticulous forensics, and crime scene reenactments. The prosecution tried to show that O.J. had clear motives and that the evidence, including blood samples and gloves found at the crime scene, directly linked him to the deaths. One of the most famous moments of the trial was when O.J. tried on one of the gloves found at the crime scene, and it apparently did not fit his hand, which the defense used to question the credibility of the evidence. On October 3, 1995, after hours of deliberation, the jury acquitted O.J. Simpson of the murder charges. The decision shocked the country and generated intense debates about justice, racism, and the role of the media. While many African Americans celebrated the acquittal as a triumph against a historically unjust judicial system, many others, particularly in white communities, saw the decision as a failure of justice and an example of impunity. The trial of O.J. Simpson was marked not only by the verdict, but by its ability to expose the deep social and racial divisions in the United States, a true mirror of the complexity of American society. Behind the public, charismatic, and successful image of O.J. Simpson, there existed a man with a dark and complex side that few people knew deeply. To better understand what may have led to such a brutal crime, it is important to analyze his psychological profile and personal history. O.J. Simpson built a successful career as an American football player, achieving fame and fortune. He also had a significant presence on television, as an actor and presenter, which fueled his public image as an admired celebrity. However, behind this brilliance, reports of domestic violence and aggressive behavior were documented, especially in relation to his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson. During their marriage, Nicole even filed several police complaints against O.J. for physical assaults and threats, painting a picture of an abusive and violent relationship. Behavioral experts point out that Simpson exhibited narcissistic traits, combined with an explosive temper and an intense need for control over those around him, especially women close to him. This pattern of behavior, coupled with fame and power, may have created a toxic and dangerous environment that culminated in the tragedy of the night of June 12, 1994. Despite his acquittal in the criminal trial, O.J.'s personality and past continued to be subjects of analysis and discussion, seeking to understand the motivations behind a man who seemingly had everything to be a positive icon, but ended up marked by one of the most shocking criminal cases in history. The O.J. Simpson trial was not just a criminal case, but a social phenomenon that deeply marked American culture and had global repercussions. The intense media coverage turned the trial into a televised spectacle, influencing the way high-profile crimes came to be followed and publicly debated. For the first time, millions of people watched a trial live, commenting on every detail on the social networks of the time and generating polarization. The case also revealed the deep racial tensions in the United States. Many African Americans saw the acquittal as a response to the long history of injustices and abuses of the judicial system against the black community. On the other hand, many white people felt that the decision was an example of impunity for a celebrity. Furthermore, the case raised important debates about domestic violence, bringing to light the urgency of more effective policies to protect victims. Nicole Brown Simpson's name became associated with the fight against violence against women. Culturally, the case influenced films, series, books, and documentaries, such as the famous The People v. O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story, which retells the trial for new generations. Even after more than 2 decades, the case continues to be a reference point for discussions about justice, racism, fame, and the power of the media, showing how a crime can transform into a social landmark that goes far beyond the courtroom. After O.J. Simpson's acquittal, the ex-athlete's life was never the same. Although he was declared criminally innocent, he was found liable in a civil lawsuit for the deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, being ordered to pay millions in damages to the victims' families. The civil decision reinforced the division of opinions and the debate about justice, showing that, even with the criminal acquittal, society sought some kind of reparation. In the following years, Simpson faced additional legal problems, including a conviction for kidnapping and armed robbery in 2007, for which he served nearly 9 years in prison. The O.J. Simpson case also left a lasting legacy in how high-profile trials are conducted and publicized. It changed the relationship between justice and the media, creating a precedent for media coverage of crimes. Additionally, it highlighted The importance of combating domestic violence, influencing laws and public policies in the United States. Today, the case is studied in law schools and criminology courses, and continues to inspire debates about the balance between fame, power, justice, and truth. The O.J. Simpson case goes far beyond a simple criminal trial. It exposed racial tensions, the flaws and strengths of the justice system, and the media's power to turn a person's life into a public spectacle. Although O.J. was criminally acquitted, doubts and controversies about his guilt or innocence remain, to this day, dividing opinions and fueling discussions about justice and prejudice. This case marked a generation and continues to influence social and legal debates, showing that truth is often complex and multifaceted. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and comment your opinion. And if you want me to bring more interesting cases like this, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to not miss any news. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.